What is going on today, Miami Dolphins fans? It is Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. And as the calling card for this time of the year, NFL draft coverage continues. We recently hit on first round targets, second round targets. Most recent video was late round targets. If you haven't caught those yet, make sure you go back and check all those out. I believe those were the last previous 3 videos. But now we're going to start looking into prospects at positions of interest. And today we are going to kick things off with the position of linebacker. We're going to start in 1 second, but as always, I got to hear from you. Any linebacker prospects that you would like to see the Miami Dolphins target in the 2024 NFL draft, you know what to do. Drop them in the comments, or any other linebackers that I discuss, any thoughts that you have on the position, on the draft, go ahead, drop those thoughts in the comments. Actually, to go back to those other 3 previous videos as well, I've actually talked about some of these linebacker prospects in those videos. So for the loyal listeners, it'll be a little bit of a refresher. I got a couple of new things as well. And for those of you that haven't checked it out yet, it'll be brand new for you. So hopefully you enjoy. And if you do, go ahead and hit subscribe as well. Definitely appreciate those that have already done so. But let's kick things off with a guy that we have talked about already. It's my favorite linebacker in this 2024 NFL draft, and that is Jordyn Cooper, the linebacker out of Texas A&M. Cooper wants to take your head off. Cooper plays with a high motor. Cooper is the linebacker that can absolutely fly sideline to sideline, make those highlight-worthy plays. What you're scared of with Jordyn Cooper is him getting a little bit too far ahead of himself, misdiagnosing a play, taking himself out of position to be able to make a tackle on those running backs, a little bit in the passing game as well. Regardless, Jordyn Cooper is a guy that Miami would, if you look at where we'd have to take him, you'd likely have to take him at number 55 overall. That's our pick in the second round, obviously barring any trades, because 21st overall, our pick in the first round, my opinion, most people's opinion, it's a little bit too early. And then if you know, we don't have a third round pick, we don't have a fourth round pick. And I say this knowing that there's a decent chance Jordyn Cooper's already off the board by the time we even pick at number 55. But like I said, he is my favorite linebacker prospect in this draft. I like what he provides as a run defector. I'm also intrigued with his potential as both a blitzing quarterback spy type of linebacker as well in this defense. And I quite honestly would be very curious to see how this coaching staff, new defensive coordinator, could maybe work him in already in year 1 with the likes of David Long and Jordyn Brooks, who we just brought in as well. So that is my guy, but we will move on to a guy that is probably the team's number 1 option at linebacker. This guy's number 1 option at linebacker on a lot of teams' draft boards, but it always comes with that one word, and it's the I word. And it's if you've been watching the Fins Up Network, the I word is the injury word. I have been talking injuries to death. Absolute death when it comes to Peyton Wilson. So I'm going to try to avoid injury talk today. Just know that it's a concern, and it is a great deal of a concern for a lot of teams. But injuries aside, the guy does every single thing that you want at linebacker. He's got the size, 6'4", 233. He's got the speed. He ran a 4.4 340 at the NFL Combine. He's one of the more athletic linebackers that you're going to find, especially in the 2024 NFL draft. That speed, that athleticism that helps him hang with those tight ends, those running backs in the passing game. He, like these new age linebackers, he can fly sideline to sideline, tracking down those ball carriers in the run game. He basically won every single award defensively that he was eligible for at NC State. He was the conference's defensive player of the year. He was the Chuck Bednarik Award winner, defensive player of the award, or of the year, basically winner. The Butkus Award winner, which goes to the nation's top linebacker. And he was first team All-American. Highly decorated, to say the very least. He's a guy, in my opinion, that's going to fit into basically any NFL defense, and he's going to make an impact. I'm going to say it, as long as he can stay healthy. And like I said I wouldn't dwell on the injury, so I will cut that talk right there. But he is another linebacker prospect that I think we would probably have to take within the first 2 rounds, because there's going to be a team out there that's going to say that the reward is worth the risk. There's going to be a team out there that does that. All right, let's talk about Trevin Wallace, linebacker out of Kentucky. He's, quite honestly, in my opinion, one of the more intriguing linebacker prospects in this draft, but I honestly think from a Dolphins perspective, we'd have to do some moving and shaking in order to land him. Number 55 overall in the second is probably a little bit early for him, but I personally think that he's going to be off the board again before we don't pick again until the 5th round. I personally think he falls somewhere between where we select in that 5th round, probably 3rd round to 5th round. So we'd have a long ways to go in order to get him. We'll obviously have to wait and see how all of that plays out. But as a prospect, you will fall in love with every single thing that this guy does physically. The height, the weight, the speed, the athleticism. You're not going to get much in regards to complaints. The complaints come on the mental side with the inconsistencies that showed up a bit too often as the reason why we're not considering Trevin Wallace in that same class as the Wilsons, as the Edgerrin Coopers, as the Jeremiah Trotters, who we'll talk about. And that's going to scare you a little bit as a Dolphins fan because, yeah, we have an athletic freak at linebacker in the form of Channing Tindall that he can't see the field because of mental errors as well. So this pick, we talk about risk versus reward. This is a huge risk versus reward pick for Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel because what do we need right now? We need an influx of young, inexpensive talent on this roster. And that absolutely starts in the NFL draft. It starts with hitting on a higher percentage of your draft picks. So Trevin Wallace, yeah, fun player, but frustrating player at times as well. All right, let's talk about a linebacker that's sort of different compared to what we've talked about already. That is Jaylan Ford out of Texas. Basically, all the guys that I've mentioned so far, there's those, it's the fast, the athletic, the sideline, just freak athletes at linebacker. Jaylan Ford isn't that. He's more of a linebacker he's making most of his plays, most of his tackles with inside that tackle box. He doesn't have that sideline to sideline speed that we're seeing from those new age linebackers. He's more of a traditional linebacker in that sense. He does provide some nice things in coverage. However, we just kind of talked about this recently. It's more of that underneath stuff, the stuff that's in front of him. That's what you trust him more with. You don't want him running man-to-man with those pass-catching tight ends, those pass-catching running backs down the field with the seam, with the real routes. You don't really want Jaylan Ford doing that. So I say that saying if Miami wants more of a safer, a more traditional option at linebacker in this year's draft, then Jaylan Ford is definitely a name to keep in mind. But personally, I watch him play and I struggle with where to rank him because all the other guys that I'm watching, like in this year's crop, Jaylan Ford is so different. Like I said, everyone else is those athletic, new age freak linebacker, sideline to sideline. We're making highlight plays. Jaylan Ford does the dirty work. He's the downhill thumping linebacker. So I'm struggling with where to rank him in here. He's probably going to be in those later round prospects. I believe that's the video that I included him in. All right, I talked about Jeremiah Trotter here a little bit earlier in the video. But yeah, another NFL draft prospect with NFL bloodlines. This draft just seems to be littered with them. What you got Trotter, you got McCaffrey, you got Harrison, you got Frank Gore. I think Terrell Owens even has a draft eligible kid as well. I'm probably missing one or two as well. It's just littered with NFL bloodlines. And you can tell with Jeremiah Trotter just with how high his football IQ already is and how well he just diagnoses plays early. He's 6 foot 228, so he is a little bit undersized, but man, he makes up for it. And he makes up for it with those instincts and that high motor that he has. And the dude can stuff a stat sheet. He's been the team leader in Clemson in tackles. He's got 28.5 tackles for loss over the last 2 seasons. Also over the last 2 seasons, he's got racked up 12 sacks. So he's definitely a capable blitzer as well. If you're looking for a negative, he'll bite a little bit too often on play action, so he's got to work on that at the next level. Coverage in general is something that he could use some work on, but a highly productive player that would, in my opinion at least, go higher if he was more of that prototypical size that we see from like the Trevin Wallaces of the world and the Edgerrin Coopers. I will cut it right there at those 5 linebackers for today's video. But like I mentioned, drop your Miami Dolphins linebacker targets in the comments. Would love to see who you have got your eye on. I'll be back soon with another positional breakdown, and I'll be doing a mock draft with trades in the very near future as well. But that is what I have got for today, Miami Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.